Welcome back to Reds Fusion LFC. The transfer window is on fire with just 1 week left, and Liverpool are right in the middle of the drama. From Alexander Isak's Newcastle saga to potential 75 million swap deals, the Reds are making headlines everywhere. Let's dive straight into the chaos and see what could shape our squad before deadline day. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to stay updated with every twist and turn in the transfer window. 7 transfer sagas that still need solving. With summer window closing in 1 week, it has been another big spending summer in the Premier League, but a large number of the 20 clubs in the division will be looking to get some last-minute deals over the line. As we enter the final week of the summer transfer window, there are a few big deals yet to be concluded. Some loose ends are being tied up, though, with Ebereki Eze, the latest player to get his move after joining Arsenal. We've now had 2 weeks of Premier League action, leaving teams with a better idea of what they might need. Indeed, some clubs who might have felt happy with their business in early August are now realizing more work could be necessary. Reigning champions, Liverpool cruised to the title last term with very little in the way of outlay, but things have changed for them this term. They have broken the British transfer record to sign Florian Wirtz, and they might not be done. At the other end of the table, newly promoted Leeds, Burnley, and Sunderland have been busy to varying degrees, and all three have started the campaign with a home win and an away loss. James Justin is poised to be the latest in a long line of new additions for the promoted sides, leaving Leicester for Leeds. So what else might we see before the transfer window shuts on September 1st? Here, a look at 7 deals which could yet go through. Newcastle latest transfer stance on Alexander Isak to Liverpool as new decision made. Latest Liverpool transfer news with an update on Alexander Isak's future. Newcastle United are expected to tell Alexander Isak to prepare for their trip to Leeds United on Saturday, despite the forward's desire to leave and make the blockbuster move to Liverpool. Eddie Howe made it clear in a press conference on Friday that Newcastle's owner's Public Investment Fund, PIF, would not allow the club to go into the first half of the new season without a senior center forward. The Magpies are in the market for 2 strikers before next Monday's deadline, as Isak is determined to depart, and there is still a need to replace Callum Wilson, who left St. James's Park at the end of his contract in June. Chelsea outcast Nicholas Jackson and Jorgen Strand Larsen of Wolves emerged as 2 possible alternatives last week. But Newcastle have been a little put off by sky-high demands. Isak could indeed still remain at Newcastle beyond the end of the transfer window, and the Magpies are set to make another attempt to reintegrate the Sweden international back into the squad. He hasn't trained for the rest of his teammates for more than a month now as he tries to force through a big money move to Liverpool, but Chronicle Live has now reported that Newcastle are going to ask Isak to make himself available for the club's Premier League clash against Leeds this weekend. The Isak saga has been put on hold until the end of the game between Newcastle and Liverpool tonight, but the Magpies are braced for the Reds to stick in another bid for the ex-Borussia Dortmund man. However, Howe has not thrown the towel in on keeping Isak and is planning new talks with the Swede once the game against Liverpool is out of the way. The Newcastle head coach is hoping to get Isak back training and then available for their final game, a trip to Elland Road, before the September international break. Last Tuesday, the Swede was absent from the PFA Awards, where he was included in the Team of the Year. Shortly after his inclusion, he turned to Instagram to drop a bombshell statement around his situation. Isak, who wasn't involved in Newcastle's Premier League opener against Aston Villa last weekend, said that change is in the best interests of everyone and said his relationship with the club cannot go on. In response to Isak's social media statement, Newcastle hit back at the former Borussia Dortmund man and revealed that no commitment has ever been made by a club official for him to leave this summer. 6 transfers that still need to be done, including Alexander Isak to Liverpool. The summer transfer window closes in just 1 week, leaving clubs scrambling to get deals over the line before it's too late. Here are 6 transfers which could yet go through. As we approach the final week of the summer transfer window, several significant deals are still in the pipeline. However, some loose ends are being tied up, with Ebereki Eze being the latest player to secure his move after joining Arsenal. After 2 weeks of Premier League action, teams now have a clearer picture of their needs. Indeed, some clubs that were content with their early August dealings are now realizing that further work may be required. Last season's champion, Liverpool, sailed to the title with minimal expenditure, but this term has seen a shift. The Reds shattered their transfer record to sign Florian Wirtz, and they might not be finished yet. So, what other moves might we witness before the transfer window closes? Here, we provide a glimpse at 6 potential deals that could still materialize. Alexander Isak, Newcastle to Liverpool. As Newcastle gears up to host Liverpool on Monday, much of the chatter will revolve around Alexander Isak. The forward insists his time on Tyneside is over, though it would require a league record bid for Liverpool to lure him to Anfield. What I can tell you is not a lot. And if someone else is going to ask that question, it is going to be the same answer, Slot told reporters on Thursday. As I have said so many times, and it has been shown, I could even impact the game on Friday with the players we had on the bench. It would be much nicer to talk about the players that we have. I understand why you have to ask the question. Alejandro Garnacho, Mana to Chelsea. Chelsea's talks regarding an Alejandro Garnacho transfer seem to have made progress, particularly in terms of convincing the player himself. However, the situation becomes more complex when discussing the transfer fee. Jadon Sancho, Man United to Roma. Reports earlier in the transfer window suggested that Sancho had rejected Roma's advances. However, the club's manager, Gian Piero Gasperini, has refuted these claims. Bayern Munich has also been mentioned as potential suitors for the winger, though German media indicates this move may not materialize. Despite Bayern losing Leroy Sane and Kingsley Coman this summer, the German team appears to be pursuing alternative targets rather than Sancho. Gianluigi Donnarumma, PSG to Manchester City. As Manchester United is closing in on Sané Lamens, it appears that Donnarumma won't be heading to Old Trafford this summer. However, the Italian could still make a move to the Premier League. Manchester City has already brought in one keeper this summer, with James Trafford returning to the club. Despite a shaky game against Spurs on Saturday, which cost his team a goal, he seems like a promising prospect for both the present and future. Rasmus Højlund, Man Ut to Napoli AC. Milan's pursuit of Rasmus Højlund may be back on track after Victor Boniface failed a medical for a move to San Siro. However, Milan is not the only Serie A side interested. Napoli has funds after selling Victor Osimhen over the summer. Kevin De Bruyne has already joined on a free transfer, and now it's time to find someone for the Belgian to assist. Marc Guéhi, Crystal Palace to Liverpool. We circle back to Liverpool. The Reds were found wanting at the back against Bournemouth in their league opener, and Giovanni Leone, who signed on the day of that match, might not be the only centre-back to join this month. Crystal Palace skipper Guéhi has long been on Liverpool's radar, and he is now entering the final year of his contract in South London. Liverpool's initial offers didn't meet Palace's valuation, but it remains to be seen whether that price will be lowered to ensure he doesn't run down his contract and leave for free next summer. Liverpool weigh options in $75 million Premier League transfer swap deal. Rodgers in and Harvey out makes sense. Bold move for Rodgers. With the summer window rapidly closing, Liverpool's recruitment team continues to work deep into the night. The latest, Link, a 75-minute pursuit of Aston Villa's Morgan Rogers, may have surprised a few, but when put under the microscope, it fits the evolving blueprint of Arne Slot's attacking system, especially after the summer window thus far. At 23, the former Manchester City Academy product has developed into a powerful runner and dynamic dribbler, a player capable of carrying the ball through pressure and breaking defensive lines in transition. Rodgers may not carry the headline reputation, of Liverpool's traditional superstar targets, but he represents a profile that could elevate the team's attacking variation. Slot has sought versatility across his front line, and Rodgers offers exactly that. A left winger by trade, but also comfortable as a numbered 10 or even in a false 9 role. He would add raw explosiveness to complement the elegance of Mohamed Salah, the guile of Florian Wirtz, and, if sealed, the predatory instincts of Alexander Isak. It would be a signing born as much out of opportunity as design. Villa, forced to comply with PSR regulations, may have to sanction an exit. Liverpool, who have operated with precision all summer, would be ready to strike and potentially grab a player that would only add to the red fire. The Elliott equation as one door opens, another may be set to close. Harvey Elliott's future at Anfield has long been the subject of debate, and the links with Aston Villa could bring clarity. The 22-year-old remains a hugely talented footballer, yet in a squad brimming with midfield options and new attacking dynamics, his role risks becoming diminished. Villa's admiration, combined with earlier approaches from Brentford, Tottenham, and RB Leipzig, shows there is no shortage of suitors. A deal in the region of 45-50 million could suit all parties. Liverpool would bank a healthy profit on a player they developed into an England hopeful, while Elliott would gain the regular starts his career trajectory demands. For Villa, he could become a creative pivot in Unai Emery's system, softening the blow of losing Rodgers while still enhancing their own long-term strategy. This isn't about Liverpool discarding a prospect. It's about maximizing value and balance. The club have operated shrewdly in player trading under Michael Edwards and Richard Hughes, and this scenario has all the hallmarks of another carefully engineered exchange. Shaping the new attack Liverpool's attack is in the process of being remodeled for the post-Luis Diaz era, and the potential twin deals of Rodgers and Elliott could define the next step. Slot has been tasked with creating an offensive unit that blends pace, power, and technical craft, and a wide forward with Rodgers' skill set ticks every box. Meanwhile, Elliott's departure would free space, funds, and opportunities for other rising stars such as Rio Ngumoha or Trey Nyoni. Liverpool, meeting with Newcastle. Overshadowed by transfer. Talk Newcastle, United versus Liverpool. Premier League preview. Liverpool's title defense continues with perhaps the most fascinating fixture of the early season, a Monday night clash under the St. James's Park lights. After an opening 4-2 draw against Bournemouth that showcased the attacking firepower and defensive vulnerability of Arne Slot's new-look side, the champions face a sterner test against a Newcastle team looking to stake its claim as a top-4 contender. The match carries added intrigue due to the unresolved Alexander Isak saga. The Swedish striker, named in the PFA Team of the Year and Liverpool's #1 transfer target, is now refusing to train or play for the Magpies as he pushes for a 130 minutes move to Anfield. His absence could cast a shadow over Newcastle's preparations, while adding another layer of tension to what is already an emotionally charged fixture. Newcastle availability. Eddie Howe enters the match under mild pressure, juggling a poor transfer window of transfers and the Isak drama. Anthony Gordon is expected to continue up front, while Harvey Barnes and Anthony Elanga will provide width in attack. In midfield, Bruno Guimaraes and Sandro Tonali remain the creative heartbeat, as Joelinton provides the disruptive muscle. Newcastle's defensive solidity will depend heavily on Sven Botman and Fabian Schär, dealing with Liverpool's fluid front line. Joe Willow is the only injury doubt, as Alexander Isak remains unavailable for selection. Game Week 1 saw the league. Cup champions draw 0-0 away to Aston Villa. Arne Slot makes fresh Liverpool transfer claim amid Alexander Isak. Saga Arne Slot plays down Liverpool's need for another forward before the transfer deadline passes as the Alexander Isak transfer saga continues at Newcastle. Arne Slot says he is not desperate to add to Liverpool's attacking ranks before the transfer deadline passes on September 1st, insisting he has enough options without moving for Newcastle United's Alexander Isak. The Reds have opted to move Darwin Núñez and Luis Diaz on during this window and also sanctioned the 25mm sale of Ben Doak to Bournemouth that was confirmed last week. Hugo Ekitike joined from Eintracht Frankfurt for a fee that could potentially rise to $79 million last month after a club record agreement of $116 million was struck for attacking midfielder Florian Wirtz in June from Bayer Leverkusen. Liverpool also saw an offer of $110 million turned down by Newcastle for Isak earlier this month, and the Sweden international striker has gone on strike in an effort to force through his dream move, with the Magpies' hierarchy so far standing firm in their resistance. Slot says he has more than enough coverage up top, despite the bid for Isak at the beginning of the month, and speaking ahead of Monday's trip to St. James's Park, where the want-away frontman won't be involved. He says the Premier League champions won't be panicked into a decision. It depends how you want to look at it, Slot said. If you want to add Florian Wirtz as an attacking option, then you can make it 5. So yeah, we've sold Darwin and brought in Hugo. Lucho Diaz has gone. You can maybe see Florian as a replacement for that. And yes, we all know what happened to Diogo Jota. If you look at it like this, maybe we haven't got enough. But Jeremy Frimpong, when he is fit, is definitely an option to play as a winger as well, so then we end up at 6 forwards. I think I said it already. We have 6 players that can play in 3 positions. That is the answer. Yes, I'm happy. Slot also hinted that Germany star Wirtz could be utilized as a false 9 on Tyneside, in the manner that Curtis Jones was last season in the 2-0 win at Manchester City and 2-2 draw at Aston Villa, which both came in February. Slot added, could Wirtz play up top? He could do yes. I would consider him for more games in that position, but there were games last season, Man City and Aston Villa away, where we did play with an extra midfielder like Curtis Jones. But it depends not only on bringing in an extra midfielder, but it depends on tactics, how they line up, all these kinds of things. He is already an option to play as a left winger, and he can be an option for the upcoming game. Cody Gakpo played a good game against Bournemouth as well. The game on Monday night has threatened to be overshadowed by the Isak saga that has dominated the agenda in recent weeks. The 25-year-old cited a thigh injury to keep him off the Magpies' preseason tour of Far East last month, and he hasn't trained with his colleagues since.